Hi, this is Lorraine, and I'm doing another video. If you'll give me a second to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. Okay. Well, there's a couple things. I just want to start because it took about 2 days for the leaves, the Dusty Miller, to like the water to come up the stalks to get it to stand up. So I'm so excited and happy about how it looks, this arrangement looks. So I've really been enjoying it all week, and I'm really surprised at the daisies, that they look so good, because my daisies never last that long. So for some reason, they're still looking quite lovely. A week later, 9 days later. The other thing is, this whole week, it's just been very challenging for work, not energetically. And so I feel like I just had to, I feel like I missed a lot of things. And I just couldn't, I didn't have the time, or I was too tired. I just couldn't. So I just had to let it go. I had to let the information go. And I feel kind of bad about that, but there's still a lot of information here, and just that's one of the things that I've really learned, is discernment, through this awakening and through this whole process of what has been happening, not only since 2016, but my whole life. Like, what do I hold on to, and what do I need to hold on to, and what do I release, and what needs to be released. And that's on all levels, mind, body, and spirit. And so this week was really about just saying, this is the boundary that cannot be crossed. I need to sleep, or I need to rest. I can't sit up anymore writing. I can't get up and write. I have to just sit and wait, and if it's meant to be said, it'll come back to me when I do the video. And so I'm just going to start. This came on the 4th, and I think it was obviously after I did the last video, even though I think I did the video on the 4th, or maybe I just posted it on the 4th. I can't remember. So anyway, when editing the segment about my father's dementia, I realized that the experience of the breaking down of his mind, his memories, his consciousness, is a parallel for what is happening to the Zeta Reticuli. Their consciousnesses are breaking down and bleeding out, much in the same way those living with dementia and Alzheimer's experience. The difference is, those living through judgment will heal. What the Zeta Reticuli are experiencing are karmic consequences determined by their words, actions, and intentions. So that is a little unclear, but let me explain it to you. So when I said those living with dementia and Alzheimer's, what I was referring to, those living with dementia and Alzheimer's, that those living through judgment will heal. So those individuals who have experienced these diseases, like Alzheimer's, these really severe, debilitating diseases, but specifically I'm talking about Alzheimer's and dementia because that's the parallel to the Zeta Reticuli. If they survive, or if they live through tribulation and judgment, they will heal. Because Mother Earth's vibration is rising, we're releasing the negativity, the unbalanced energy, the toxicity of this world. And once we release that, once that is moved from this world, then all things will heal and flourish. Okay, that's what I meant when I said that. Those living through judgment will heal. Those living through this process of revelation, tribulation, judgment. But the Zeta Reticuli, what they're going through is karmic. And and I did write a whole lot more today about that, so I'm not going to really go more into detail right now. February 5th, I had a vision. I woke up and saw a string of lights like those used to decorate a Christmas tree. Only the last 2 lights were lit, and they went out, one after the other. This represented a countdown, and time is almost up. It feels like this relates to events in my personal life as well as globally. There are sirens sounding outside as I write this. Okay, really super early in the morning. And so the sirens always represent some type of urgency, or that's what I feel like it represents, is some type of urgency. And so I just woke up and I saw these. I didn't see a whole string of lights. I just saw 2 lights lit, and then one went out, and then the other went out. And representing to me a countdown, and representing the end of that countdown. And a lot of times I felt like divine timing was at play, and that things were going to take a while, but this message is telling me that it's going to happen rather quickly, that this is coming very quickly. And it's okay, so then there I say continuation of dementia statement last week related to Zeta Reticuli. That breakdown of the psyche, the collective psychosis the Zeta Reticuli are experiencing, cannot be stopped. There was a feeling that humanity was exposed to this disease so they, meaning the Zeta Reticuli, could, and the cabal, the primary cabal, they could observe the occurrence and disintegration of the consciousness to better understand it, to try to stop what is happening, what is occurring within the Zeta Reticuli community. Because the primary cabal is the Zeta Reticuli. They become the Zeta Reticuli over 10,000 years, or how many years. So they're looking at it as, if we don't figure this out now, we know this is going to happen in the future, right? Because they see it with the Zeta Reticuli. For the Zeta Reticuli, there is no stopping it. This is a karmic experience. They are not separate from the divine. They are part of the whole and subject to the same consequences. No one can stop the cycle of creation, preservation, destruction. And so then I started seeing the Trimurti Hindu religion, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma being the creator, Vishnu being the preserver, Shiva being the destroyer. So I'm seeing this process of creation, preservation, and destruction. Okay? No one can escape or circumvent their karmic obligation. This is what makes path and purpose so important. If we set intentions, walk our path and purpose, drive from the heart, connect to the divine, follow divine guidance, we are fulfilling our obligation to this universe, ourselves, and the divine. This assures we pass back to the light from a place of balance. Path and purpose is paramount, and it is so important. If you are on your path and purpose, if you follow your path and purpose, that assures that you will pass back to the light with balanced karma. You will live a life of balance. Okay, you will do what's expected of you. So from this 3D place, we cannot say that we've been living a life of balance from beginning to end. But there are certain events that happen within the context of this lifetime that move us to the extremes of positive and negative, light and dark, however you want to look at it, balance and unbalanced energy. And we are meant to, especially carrying the depth and breadth of emotion. Humanity carrying the depth and breadth of emotion. We are meant to experience those emotions to the extremes, but we're always also meant to move ourselves back into center. And so, as I've said, this iteration of the divine, this universe, is this divine source awareness seeing itself, discovering itself, okay? And for this world specifically, we carry the depth and breadth of emotion. And so this divine source energy, this divine source awareness is discovering what that means, what it means for it to carry and experience the depth and breadth of emotion. The depth of love, it knows the depth of love, but when it splits itself into duality, we have love, and then we have, let's just say, love and hate, two extremes. What does that mean? What does hate mean? Because its a homeostatic state is love, unconditional love. So on this world, it is experiencing what it could possibly be, from the most loving being to the most darkest being, okay? And as we experience this world, we allow this source energy, this divine awareness, to see itself. Okay, we're blessed. We are so blessed. That's what's coming to me right now. So strong that we have experienced the lightest and the darkest parts of this source energy. And for those of us who have found our way back to center, there is an incredible amount of gratitude and love and blessings that will be bestowed upon us. That's what I'm feeling really strong right now. It's super emotional. I'm trying to keep myself composed. I'm going to go back to this. So as we move through the emotions, the most positive and the most negative, and walk our path and purpose, which will eventually bring us back to center, we will end our personal incarnations on this world, our personal iterations on this world, from a place of balance. Okay, there will be no karmic consequences. Like the Zeta Reticuli, the Cabal will have karmic consequences. People who choose imbalance will have karmic consequences. But those of us who work diligently to maintain that balance, or to find that balance, okay, to experience this world on its terms and then return to center, will be rewarded, will be blessed. Okay, we'll have incredible blessings after we move through this phase of revelation, tribulation, and I'll say judgment. Even though it's not judgment, God isn't judging, the divine isn't judging us. It is a process of vetting, which leads us to where we're meant to be in our next incarnations, karmically. Our karmic cycle, our karmic experiences on this world, our words, actions, intentions are making that determination of where we move to next. The Zetas need to recruit new energies, new worlds, to help maintain stability of their makeshift collective. Okay, so they are moving so far out of balance, and they're moving into that collective psychosis that I heard, I think Randy Kramer say on, he used that term on Cosmic Disclosure. They are moving so deeply into this that they need a stabilizing factor. And what they do is they recruit other worlds into their collective to try to stabilize themselves. It's a short-term solution, but they won't be able to stop the degradation. It's karmic. Okay, I'm going to get that deleted. February 6th. So I'm going to mention this really quick. I wasn't going to mention it, but I am. So Saul of Tarsus, Saul, what do they call him? I can't remember what his nickname is, but I have it written somewhere in here. The Butcher of Judea, that's what they used to call him. His past, repentance, stewardship, and testimony as Paul. So Saul became Paul, the prophet of Jesus, a prophet of Jesus Christ. And so I wanted to mention that because Saul was persecuted the Christians, and then he had his own spiritual experience, which made him see things differently. And then he became a prophet for Jesus Christ, right? Of Jesus Christ. And so he did really horrible things. And so I think of a friend of mine who's been through a lot in his life. And others like him, and how they can be, I think there's no greater judge than ourselves. We judge ourselves harsher than I think anybody else can, because we know ourselves best. But I think it's important to remember or to note that Saul also had a checkered past, I guess you would say, a dark past. And he found his way back to the light. He found his way back to center and became one of the greatest prophets, and also contributor to the Bible. And so he was able to experience incredible darkness, but also incredible light and beauty, find his path and purpose, and live his life from balance. Okay. So 2:6. So I want everybody to think about that and remember that we're not condemned by our past. Our past does not define us. We become what we choose to become. And if we set our intentions and allow our words and actions to follow those intentions and become the change, the only thing constant in the universe is change. If we can become that different person, projecting that different energy that we want to become, it is incredibly possible. It will happen, and we will have the support that we need to get through it. But we have to believe, and we have to set that intention and start working towards that, working to that end. February 6th, the imagination thought is creation. Children have wild and beautiful imaginations. If they, meaning this negativity, the cabal, primary and secondary, if they stifle that imagination, they stifle creation. Childhood trauma, indoctrination through schools, the pervasiveness, necessity, and institutionalization of preschools are tools utilized to stifle individual independent thought, the imagination, and thus creation. That is why there is only one. Only one is needed. At the root, there is only one. That one is divine. So that one energy comes in and works through us. However many of us are ready, works through us to create the change this world needs to transcend into balance. Transcend from balance, actually. We must embody that balance, and then we manifest it into this new world that we're creating. We bring it through us. We bring that divine source energy through us and onto this plane of existence. And we create that balanced world from our balanced energy. So one of my cousins said to me, "We don't meditate, we're Catholic, we pray." And she wasn't very nice about it. Prayer is a form of meditation, like running, dance, yoga, painting, drawing, sailing, surfing, etc. The rigid categorization of everything does nothing to honor the diversity of this world and its people. And so when my cousin said that to me, I was like, if you can't even see the possibilities of the different ways to honor and worship or show gratitude and love to the divine, then you're really stuck in a box. Because to think that the only way to connect with the divine is through prayer is very narrow in scope. And all the things I just listed, we can connect with the divine through everything. We all have passions, and so those are things that I like, that I enjoy. But science, you can do it through math and any type of science. Your passion for that thing can connect you to the divine. Gardening, horticulture, a lot of the boys who are now men I grew up with used to love to work on cars. They just loved it. And they loved talking to each other while they were doing it. There is a sense of community and connection through that the divine can also utilize to connect you to your heart. Because you connect to your heart through the love that you have of engaging in that activity, right? There's so many different things. So to say that there's only one way to do something, and if you're not doing it that way, you're not doing it properly, is stifling in and of itself. It's narrow in scope. It can constitute bigotry, hate, judgment. And if God loves unconditionally, we are meant, and the divine source loves unconditionally, that is how we are meant to exist, not from a place of judgment or narrow-mindedness or bigotry, right? We're meant to love and accept one another for who we are, and honor each person and what they offer the whole, okay, the community. February 8th, creativity and children. The creativity carried within our children, embodied in our children, will be applied across the universe, as eventually all will carry the depth and breadth of emotion, and therefore the depth and breadth of creation. Anyone stifling the creative process, nature of humanity, or other beings of love and light are held accountable via karma. No one escapes the karmic circle. So since the depth and breadth of emotion that we carry will eventually be carried by every being across the universe, it would be natural. This is the feeling, is that this unbalanced negative energy will try to stifle all those worlds that are being exposed to or given the privilege of the depth and breadth of emotion, and therefore the depth and breadth of creativity. And so any energy that tries to stifle the creative force of the source of all creation will have karmic consequences. And so this is another extension of a message that I received, that I was thinking too small, that I was thinking like only of Earth, when in fact Earth is a catalyst for change across the universe. So whatever happens here will happen across the universe. So the boundaries being set here on this world will be extended across the universe. The expectations, okay? All the beings, life on Earth is our first exposure to the diversity of the universe. So all energy, all the beings, all life on Earth is our first exposure to the diversity of the universe, from the insects to the plant life, to the animal life, to the sea life, to the everything is our first exposure to the diversity of the life, because everything that exists on this world has transcended to a level of consciousness and awareness that we are able to communicate with, that we will be able to communicate with as colleagues. And we can communicate with all beings on this world right now. I can't get into how that happens. I don't want to get into that, but we can. We can communicate with all energy, period. All right? And so this experience we're having here on this world is our first exposure to what we will experience out in the universe. So after that information came that all beings and life on earth is our first exposure to the diversity of the universe, I started to wonder what it would be like for reptiles in general to carry the depth and breadth of emotion. Being cold-blooded creatures, how would that manifest in them? How would that manifest for aquatic beings? Probably very naturally. They already live within the flow of water, which is just like the flow of energy. Adapting to the constantly shifting emotional state would probably be innately comforting and a natural next step. So I just started thinking about that, what that would mean for a reptile to carry the depth and breadth of emotions and all these other beings. And so what I'm doing as I do that is I'm planting that seed. And it's going out in waves of thought out into the universe. So these worlds are being exposed to that possibility as I speak. Okay, as I put that possibility out into the universe. February 11th. Do not fear, but reverence God. And so I was watching the Days of Noah, the part 2 of that documentary I was telling you about last week. And one of the people that were speaking on the show, how would I say, one of the experts, I guess I would call them, said, in the Bible it always says, fear God, and I have an issue with that because we should not fear God. God loves us unconditionally. Unconditionally. God wishes us no harm. The divine wishes us no harm. He wishes us only love, joy, and happiness. And one of the gentlemen who were speaking said, do not fear, but reverence God. And so that I thought was a better way to look at it. So if I, pick up and read any part of the Bible or Bible quotes, it's like we should substitute reverence for fear, because every communication that we receive from this source energy, from this divine energy, from God, is meant to help us and guide us, and it should be revered, not this energy shouldn't be feared. It should be revered, and we should be grateful for what the support and love and guidance that it provides us. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. That was 1 John chapter 2, verse 4. And so that was important because so many people go to church and so many people claim to live from this religious dogma, but they don't execute the will of the divine. They don't execute unconditional love, compassion, kindness, because at the root, if you read the Bible, if you look at the Bible, and I have read it a few times from page 1 to the end, both books, Old and New Testament, it is a book of love. It shares love. At its root, it's about love. It's about loving your fellow man and loving all things. And so but so many, in my experience, I see so many people preach it, but not live it. And that's what this is saying. If you preach the Bible, you preach goodness, and you preach what you learn in church, but you don't live it, then you are a liar. Okay? That's what this quote is saying. The truth of the Lord or God is not in you. Okay? It's hypocrisy. Oh, okay, I had a vision out of teaching. I was providing information and teaching a large group of people. Someone asked a question. I answered, but I felt a bit of confusion still remained in the questioner, even though she said she understood. So I explained in a different way. She then understood that second explanation, but I felt there were gaps between the first explanation and the second explanation. So I explained it to her in two different ways, but when I was looking at the two different ways I explained it, there were still a little bit of gaps in the information between that first and second explanation that weren't bridged, but each in isolation explained an idea that one could grasp and understand, right? And so I didn't hear the question. The information came in, and I was just trying to explain, because I can explain anything in 100 different ways to try to help people to understand. And so I know that's something I do. And so what was showed to me was that I was explaining this to this woman in a couple different ways to try to help her understand what was being said, what I was trying to share. And what I noted was that I felt like there were still gaps in the explanation if you're trying to bridge the two explanations and connect them, right? And so after that, I was thinking about that, how I felt like the two couldn't be bridged, even though you could understand what was being explained in each one in isolation. Then another message came through that I shared with this group I was teaching. There will be what seem like gaps or unanswered topics or questions. These do not truly exist. So sometimes when information is coming in, there may seem like there's gaps in the information, or part of what is being explained, part of the question isn't being answered, right? Or you're only getting a partial answer. You may feel that way. These do not truly exist. So these gaps and these partial explanations, they don't really exist. I'm so sorry. I got to start this over again. These do not truly exist. This is the difference between a 3D consciousness and a higher level conscious awareness, or 5D. As your consciousness rises and you embody greater awareness, the gaps and seemingly empty spaces begin to fill. Okay? So it's not that there's gaps in the information, it's just your consciousness is not at a level where you can grasp all the information that's being explained to you, because you're still kind of stuck in certain paradigms or rigid thinking of this 3D level. But as soon as you start to release those paradigms and the structures of this 3D level, and you open yourself to higher level consciousness, you will have the conscious awareness to understand all the information that's coming in. And so I'll just say that over the last 6 or 7 years, my gifts have gotten much stronger, but it's not really about my gifts and my connection to the source and my angels and guides. It's more about what I understand and how I understand it. That is the greatest change that I have personally experienced, is how I see, understand, and know the world around me, and how my point of view is changing, and how I understand what I'm experiencing. It's coming from a much different place. It's coming from a greater wisdom and awareness, and that greater wisdom and awareness is emboldened or empowered through my connection to the divine. Okay, that is almost, I would say, 100% a result of my openness and my connection to the divine. And it has required me to go through massive spiritual changes, massive awakenings, and seeing myself, looking at my, looking at my life, reevaluating my life, seeing all experiences from a different perspective, and releasing the trauma and the negativity from it. Forgiveness is a very huge part. And then moving forward from a different place. Okay? It's huge, and I can't really, it's so individual for each person, what that means for each person. And as we go through this, we will, as we transcend and grow from greater awareness, we will be able to help each other more effectively. Okay. So the next message, then the message came to me, now you better understand the message sent to you so long ago. You exist between the spaces, you fill in the gaps. And so as I was having this vision of me teaching, I started remembering, I used to say that I'm here to fill in, I exist between the spaces and I fill in the gaps. And I used to say that, and I really didn't know what that meant, but I have said it a number of times. I felt it since 2016, I think that class I took, that actually came to me, one of the messages, when I had the vision and all those lights were around me and the rainbow lights started projecting out of my hands, and they were telling me I was a healer, and I was like, what? And I was like, I was told I exist between the spaces and I fill in the gaps. And I wasn't sure what that meant, but I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll be that, whatever it is. But what it felt to me in that moment was I was meant to be in the background. I was meant to be invisible, unseen, but still to keep doing my work. That's what I felt. And so when this vision came in, at the end of the vision, this source energy came in and said, now you know what it means when you, now you better understand the message that was sent to you so long ago. You exist between the spaces and you fill in the gaps. So I am here to teach and help people to understand what this process is and help them to open up and receive divine love and elevate their vibration and transcend. Okay. So so then again, I was thinking about last week's video came in and how people should not have imposed their beliefs onto others, forcing them to wear masks and take shots. That was truthfully just imposed on people, and then people were marginalized and judged if they didn't believe that was the way to go to protect yourself and to stay safe. They were judged, they were vilified. So by that same reasoning, we cannot force our beliefs onto them. They must find their way back to their hearts, to unconditional love, faith, and trust in something greater than the self. So by the same token that these individuals had no right to impose their beliefs onto us, I cannot impose my beliefs onto others. I cannot say, chase people down and say, you need to do this in order to be saved. You need to do this in order to transcend. You need to do this in order to, because God loves us all unconditionally, no matter what. The divine source loves us all unconditionally, regardless of what our choices are in this life. Okay? We all have a path and purpose. I'm walking my path and purpose, and I will do so with love, compassion. I will remain steadfast, and I won't stop until I'm meant to either deviate or do something else, or until I pass back to the light. That's just what I'm here to do, and I'll do it. But I won't impose my beliefs onto others. I won't force anybody to see the world through my eyes or from my perspective. I can assist people in finding tools that they need to help them to grow and change and be more self-aware, connect with the source. But I cannot impose myself on others the same way these individuals, through this whole illness that we've gone through, were imposing themselves on us. Okay? Two wrongs do not make a right, right? When you, and I've said this a few times, when you become that thing that you are fighting against, or you are now the darkness. Okay, so if I do what others have done, I'm no longer living from a place of love. If I'm imposing myself on others, I'm no longer living from a balanced place. I'm living from a place of ego and separation, because I believe I know what's right for others. Okay, and so that's not okay, and that's not anything I would do, and that's not anything we could do. We should do. We do not want to become the darkness that we're ridding this world of, because then that darkness exists on this world through us. Okay, although that is what this negative, unbalanced energy is trying to do, trying to move me out of balance, so I embody the darkness and bring the darkness onto this world, bring imbalance onto this world, and I just won't give in to that. Cepheus will be an experience unlike Earth. These energies must move out of the paradigms of Earth to rediscover themselves from the 3D level they will return to from a different perspective. So as this tribulation, revelation, tribulation, judgment, divergence happens, there will be those who transcend and live from a higher vibration and match Mother Earth's vibration and inherit Mother Earth and remain here on this world. There will be others who have chosen separation and products of man, and they will not transcend, and they will be moved to the Cepheus constellation, on a world in the Cepheus constellation, and that world will not be like Earth, because these people must move away from the paradigms of Earth and live someplace unlike Earth, on all levels. Okay, and so I don't know what that means. I don't know what life on that world will be like, but it's not going to be anything like life on Earth, because they have to release and leave all these things that kept them stuck at this 3D level, the things that they were unable to release that kept them stuck at this 3D level. Okay, and so they must rediscover themselves from the 3D level. They must rediscover themselves from a 3D level, and that from the 3D level that they return to, that will be unlike anything on Earth, and it will force them to see their existence from a different perspective. Okay, so Saul of Tarsus, the butcher of Judea. Okay, and so I just had more stuff. I had noted that he was actually a member of the Sanhedrin, which is the Jewish Supreme Court. He was an attorney, and he was ruthless in his pursuit of Christians. And on the road from Jerusalem to Damascus, he had a vision of Jesus that changed him. There was a white light, I guess, in the voice of Jesus that came to him. And so I think that's important, that we all, just to mention that again, that we all can change. We can all move from this place of ego and separation to a place of unconditional love and acceptance of one another, okay? Of joy, of collaboration, of unity, okay? So somewhere I was reading something, and it said that the EU is saying that buildings over a certain age will be considered uninhabitable and will not be bought, sold, or lived in after 2030. And then in California, they're saying the same thing. In 2030, there'll be no gas-powered vehicles allowed, which makes no sense. You know, where will people live? And there is no infrastructure to support all Californians driving electric vehicles. Much less can they afford them. They can't afford. Most of the population of California can't afford electric vehicles. So, and then begs the question, who will benefit from that? The people making the electric vehicles, right? They're going to make a whole lot of money if if Californians are forced to buy electric vehicles. Who's going to benefit from this? The banks, who will get the property for buildings not being condemned. The banks will get the property. The corporations that have the money to rebuild on those properties, right? So, let's see what I wrote here, because I can't remember what I wrote after it. They know what's coming. Oh, okay, now I know. They know what's coming. They feel like if they take it down their way, if they control the destruction, they control the outcome. That is the lie of the ego. This is a demonstration of how fear, insecurity, and the feeling of control can misguide, mislead, create delusion and a false sense of security. So these energies who are sending down these edicts, we'll call it edicts, in doing this, they know that everything's coming down. All the structures are coming down. They know everything's going to be cleared from the planet, okay? How that happens, they don't. But if they can control how things are dismantled and taken down, then they feel they can control what happens after that, right? If we can control the takedown, we can control how things happen after that, okay? They're trying to exact a force against the natural flow of energy. This creates discord, dissonance in the energy field of Mother Earth. It is this resistance to the will of the divine that will create or is creating catastrophe, cataclysm, and calamity. What is most important to note is that it is necessary for truth to be revealed and for the old ways, old structures, and paradigms to be removed from this world. The process of revelation and tribulation assure the will of the divine is executed. Additionally, the processes of revelation and tribulation are the mechanisms used for vetting. Vetting is the process used in the divergence of the collective consciousness. Your words, actions, intentions through revelation and tribulation, actually through all lifetimes, but culminated in this moment, put you on your path. Will you transcend on Mother Earth or reincarnate in the Cepheus constellation? Those are the paths before humanity. The Zeta Reticuli created a path, chose to resist the flow of energy. There are consequences. And so I go back to collective psychosis, fragmenting of the consciousness, deconstructing the consciousness, much like the transcendence of humanity, but in the opposite direction. They must be brought back to their most basic awareness. So the Zeta Reticuli, through this collective psychosis, their consciousness is being fragmented, and it's being deconstructed, I guess you could say, and it's being brought back to its most basic elemental components, okay? And that's the best way I can describe it. And just like humanity is transcending, we are becoming more aware. We're opening ourselves up to the source energy, and we're elevating our consciousness and our vibration, and we're transcending with Mother Earth. The opposite is happening for the Zeta Reticuli. They are going to have to be broken down to their most basic parts, their most basic awareness, reformed and reconfigured by the divine source awareness, and then reacclimate themselves um, through a physical existence unlike anything they've ever experienced before. So it's going to be very much like what's going to happen to the Earth humans who are going to be moving to the Cepheus constellation. They're going to be exposed to a completely different existence, so they can release the paradigms of this world and not get stuck back in the rut of the ego and the self, and the negativity, the imbalanced energy. The source is going to put them on a path of success so they can succeed and transcend in their awareness. The same thing will happen for the Zeta Reticuli, but the humans on this world who are moving to Cepheus are not going to be broken down. Their consciousness isn't going to be broken down. They're just going to move there, and they're going to live on a world where they're not exposed to the same things that they have here on this world. But the Zeta Reticuli, that consciousness, those individual like fractals of the divine will be kind of broken down to their most basic components, and they will be placed on another world where they don't have access to the same level of consciousness that they have currently, or that they had here on this world. Tribulation. What do you put your faith in? If you put your faith in man, in the material plane, a shot, a mask, a government, separation, then you will be provided an existence that will give you these things until you are ready to open up to divine awareness, but it will not be earth. So if you put your faith in material plane objects, mask, government, a shot, separation, then you will be provided material plane objects, the 3D level of existence someplace else, and that is Cepheus. The people who are diverging and staying at the 3D, you'll be provided material plane things that you so covet on this world, but you will be on another world. There'll be different material plane items, in which you will go through the same process again of having these material plane objects, having to discover your connection to this source energy, the divine, and then learning to release all these objects and understand that it is through the divine that you receive all things. Okay, not through your connection to the divine and unification. That is where you receive all things. So you're going to just have to go through this 3D process again. I feel like a beacon repeating the same message over and over. That's so funny because I didn't even read this segment of my journal, and I feel like the whole time I've just been like a repeating record over and over, saying the same thing over and over, and I didn't realize the extent of it until this moment. But I did feel like when I was talking about the Zeta Reticuli again this morning when I was writing in here, I'm like, God, I sound like a record, a beacon like of light just flashing continuously. I'm saying the same thing over and over. I feel like a beacon repeating the same message over and over, but I am driven to do this. I feel like it's to remind humanity that they were given a choice, and they made it with their words, actions, and intentions. So I feel like I'm being driven to keep saying this over and over, even though I feel like the process is this vetting process, the divergence has already kind of been determined. I feel like I have to keep saying this to remind people as we move through this next phase of tribulation, which is going to be very challenging, that we all made a choice. And we've had not only years, but lifetimes to make that choice. And that what we will experience are the consequences of those choices, be they positive or be they negative. Okay? So I'm going to take a second. So I just saw a man dressed very much like Jesus, but I don't know if it was Jesus. Just like in the robes that they wore back in the days of Jesus, only based on the what I see in movies or depictions of that era. But I see a man in this robe. It's brown, and he just puts his hand. He's above me, and he puts his hand on my forehead, and it's another anointing. But then he also came and he put something in my hand, and I can't see what it is, but he gave me something. And Jesus had come in a previous video, and I don't even know how long it's been, about a month, 2 months maybe. He did come in and anoint me once in the past, but that's why I don't feel like that this man represents Jesus. I feel like he's someone else. But I don't have an identity, and he just blesses me and anoints me, and then he places something in my hand. And actually it has writing on it, and it has characters. So I want to say Chinese because the document is red, and for some reason I'm associating that red with the yellow lettering, the yellow characters, as Chinese. And then I hear the Art of War quote. I think it's Sun Tzu. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. That's coming in. Okay, let me see one more time. And now they're just showing me that vision of destruction, and then in the background that vision of beautiful vegetation and earth, like just this beautiful, my most beautiful hike that I talked about last week. That's what they're showing me. And a lot of birds, many birds, messengers, messages. Okay, that's it. Thank you.